and welcome to Horror Rewind. This is Kelly Florence, and this week we have a special co-host,
Campbell Florence.
So Campbell is my 11-year-old, and he is co-hosting this week because we watched one of my favorite TV shows of all time. We started it, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and what we decided to do was go back and watch the original movie and then start the series from the beginning. What do you think so far, Campbell?
I love it.
That's awesome. You never know when you introduce your kids to something that you love if they will reject it or love it. I feel like, just to be contrary, I feel like my 4-year-old would say the opposite of anything that I love.
Yeah.
So a little bit about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie. Joss Whedon was inspired by The Lost Boys, and he thought, what if we focus on a girl slay vampires? I totally love the concept. But when he wrote this movie, he sold the script, and a lot of it got changed from his original vision. They took out a lot of his jokes. They thought his humor was too obscure and people wouldn't get it. They changed a lot of characters. They changed some female characters to male in the movie, and he was so frustrated he actually left the movie while it was being made and didn't return. Thankfully, he was able to come back and create the story and the series that he really intended, which is the TV show. So first, though, we're going to focus on the movie. It came out in 1992. It is 33% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. It had a $7 million budget, and it ended up taking in $16 million at the box office. This is Hilary Swank's first movie, and even Ben Affleck makes a little appearance. He has one line in the movie, so it's got some big people in it. This movie starts, and they're setting up all the characters. What were your first impressions in the beginning of the movie?
Well, here, the first things on my notes is there was the cheerleading routine, and if you watch the movie and you pay attention to the crowd, everybody is just dancing and singing along with it, which I don't think would be realistic in a real high school, because not everyone's gonna like it, and yeah.
Yeah, I wrote down, too, that I have never seen people actually pay attention to a cheer routine, and everybody was into it. And, it's fine, and I'm going to forgive a lot in this movie, because eventually it came around, and it grew on me, and it became cheesier. But, yeah, that was part of the funny thing. Oh, I should mention my interest in this movie. I did love this movie when I saw it. I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it, I rented it from the video store. I didn't get into the series, the Buffy series, when it aired. It was on a channel that I didn't get where I lived, but I came to it later, and I love it. Like I said, it's one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Baby Luke Perry and baby David Arquette are in this movie. They seem so young, and I guess they had to work around the filming schedule of Luke Perry, who was hot at the time in 90210.
Another note I have is earlier, after that, they're talking about, I guess, like a geography test or something. And then I think it's Buffy that says this. She says, well, why am I supposed to know El Salvador is in Spain? And then when she said that, I just freaked out because I love geography, and just hearing her say that, I just... Ugh.
That is frustrating. She mentioned she got a C+ on her test, and her friend says, you got a C+? I can't believe I cheated off of you. And I thought that was pretty funny. They set up this group of friends, and they are absolutely the mean girls of the school, and Buffy's a part of them, and she's definitely not likable at all in this movie, especially in the beginning. They also set up this relationship with her parents that they don't care where she is, what she's doing, what time she comes home. They've got their own thing going on. And so, you get a little sympathy for her, but she's very unlikable.
Yeah, and another note that I have here is, I think during the movie, I think her mom says kiss noise when she's leaving or something. And then another thing, when she comes home late, I think, is it after she slays a vampire?
Mhm.
After she slays a vampire, she says, "Do you know what time it is?" And then she says a little bit after 10, and she says, "Oh, I knew this thing was a little bit slow." So they don't care what time she gets home.
Yeah, exactly. They're showing the parents don't really care at all. And referencing that kiss noise, she won't actually kiss her. She won't even pretend to kiss her by going, mwah. She just says kiss noise. So it's really far removed. It's like 3 times removed from her. One of the guys, they set up these guys too, these boyfriends and jocks, and they're pretty horrible people as well. One of him starts a sentence with, I don't want to sound sexist, but, and you just know that's trouble. And then we noticed some of the snacks they're eating. They're eating Doritos Light. I don't remember those. Do any of our listeners? Doritos Light? Apparently they were Diet Doritos.
Yeah, I've never heard of those.
Buffy finds out that she's a Slayer, and she sort of rejects this because, first of all, she doesn't believe in vampires. It seems too crazy. And Donald Sutherland proves to her by throwing a knife at her when she's standing by her locker, and she catches it. So she's not necessarily convinced. She's more shocked that he threw a knife at her head. But he definitely had to be sure that she was the Slayer, because that could have ended badly.
Yeah, I'm just imagine, what if Buffy wasn't the Slayer, and he'd be wanted for murdering somebody?
Yes. They do have several things in common with the TV show, if I start comparing a little bit. She is in high school. She's a senior in the movie. She's a sophomore in the TV show. And then also there's the premise that this powerful vampire is going to come back, and she's having these visions and these dreams of him in the movie that they were together in a previous life or something. So it's interesting. Paul Rubens is a vampire. He's pretty funny. David Arquette becomes a vampire, and his part's pretty funny too. I think it got cheesier but more comedic, and I forgave more towards the end of the movie than at the beginning. At the beginning I was kind of feeling judgmental about the cheesiness, but by the end I was hooked. What about you?
Oh yeah, that one scene where I forgot the vampire's name. Who was it again? I don't remember his name, but like Buffy stabs him, and then he's just rolling around like ooh, for like an entire like 30 seconds, and then after the credits it goes back to him and he's still doing ooh, and then he finally just collapses to the floor.
Now, I read that scene wasn't even in the script, or his death like that wasn't in the script. He improvised that. So I kept saying, like, why the heck is he doing this? But it was just the actor. So who knows?
I have 2 notes that saying everybody is mean.
Yeah.
There is a note that says about the fight in the graveyard, and my last note is about the teddy bear that we can see in the mirror. I don't remember. I think she's getting her makeup on. There's like some teddy bear in like the background.
Aw, that's nice. So overall, the movie was okay. I didn't love it during this rewatch. I appreciate the groundwork that Joss Whedon set up, but then when we went into the pilot episode, and now I think we've gotten through 4 or 5 episodes of the Buffy TV series, it makes me appreciate so much more the TV show and what the intention of the character was. Now, the pilot was written as a direct sequel to the movie, and actually the end of the movie got changed, and so when they're referencing her burning down the school gymnasium, that was actually supposed to happen in the movie, but they changed his script. So things are referenced in the TV show as if we saw them in the movie, but of course we didn't. And they change a couple things too. Buffy now has a single parent. She just has the mom, and Buffy is so much more likable, I think, in the TV show than the movie. What do you think, Campbell?
Yeah, and how they make her friend with the nerdy kids, and how in the beginning how she's going around with Cordelia. How she's going around with her, and then she's saying just like stay away from them and stuff, but then she like talks to them, and like that the first time that she talks to them, it's like, oh, do you want me to move? Because I can move if you want.
I love these characters that are set up in the TV show. So Buffy, as I've mentioned, is so much more likable. She's coming into the show, and we already accept that she's a Slayer, and she knows it. We don't really know what this all entails, but we know that she slays vampires. Giles, who is brand new to the school in the library, he's the Watcher, which is the person who helps and trains and does the research, which is it's so old school. I love it. They use a computer to do some research, and it's like a novelty.
Yeah, and how I think in one of the episodes, they needed I think in episode 2, they needed the plans to go under the, to find the vampire's place where the big, main vampire was. And I remember that, I think she said that, and then I remember Giles said, so the underwater sewage plans are just open to the public. And then I forgot, Willow says, well, sort of. I stumbled across them after I hacked the city council security password.
Yes, it's clever, and it's just, it's very old school. It's very late 90s. So when Buffy came out on TV, this was Sarah Michelle Gellar's first big role. Anthony Stewart Head, of course, who's playing Giles, is more well-known. David Boreanaz is playing Angel. He's only in here and there as a sort of a guest star. We know later he becomes more of a reoccurring role. And then he does have his own spin-off TV show, which is a spoiler alert for you, Campbell, because you don't know about that yet. But
what?
Yeah, there's a whole show called Angel that's just him in Los Angeles, which we'll get to. You'll see it.
Okay.
But Buffy is streaming right now on Hulu, and we are loving it. How do you feel? Are there some comparisons you want to make between the TV show and the movie? What you like better, what you like worse, or don't like?
So, what they did was, during the scenes when they're at, that nightclub, what they did was they invited small bands from the area to come in and play and be on the show, which I think that is pretty cool.
Yeah, it got a lot of different music exposed to the masses and the world, and I think the writing is so clever. I love how witty everybody is and funny, yet real. It feels like people talking in high school, and it doesn't take itself. I feel like it doesn't take itself so seriously that it's over everybody's head, like what the producers apparently thought the humor was for the movie, and they changed. I think it works so well. Xander is hilarious. Willow is lovable. Buffy is lovable. Cordelia is the worst right now, but yep. I promise she's going to grow on you.
I'm waiting to see it and hear it. Anything, really.
The other thing that I kind of forgot, I haven't rewatched this series in probably 6 or 7 years from the beginning, is that there's so much more to this TV show than just vampires. Already in episode 3, they're dealing with something else. And then there's all sorts of different creatures and things happening because Sunnydale's at the mouth of hell.
And I remember I think the last episode that we watched, it was about the teacher who was what was it?
Praying mantis?
Praying mantis. I was getting them confused with the grasshopper. And how at the end, how they go looking for her, and her name is Miss French, and they go and, Miss French is 30 years old or something, and then they go to Miss French's house, and then they find Miss French, except now she's 90, and she says that she retired in 1972, so saying that she was under a false name for all that time, which just... It got me confused at first, and then I realized it, and I was just amazed by what happened there.
There's so many great little plots. There's some witchcraft coming up. There's going to be some werewolves. There's all sorts of different supernatural, paranormal things happening. It's funny, and I've talked about this before with Meg. When Buffy came out, for some reason I felt like maybe this was not real, but it felt like there was some sort of rivalry between Buffy fans and the X-Files fans. It was, no, I'm a Buffy person and I can't like the X-Files, or no, I'm an X-Files person and I can't like Buffy. And so Not that I even had access to watching Buffy. I felt like I didn't have the TV show at the time, or the TV channel at the time. But I didn't get into it when it was airing in the early years, which is crazy to me because I love it so much. But I absolutely believe that you can be a fan of multiple things, even if they're competing shows or contradictory to each other, obviously, because I have all sorts of likes. What else do you want to say about Buffy, either the movie or the TV show?
I like that, how in the second episode, I forgot his name. Yeah, Jesse, that was it. Jesse says that, like, he is bringing them out, then he brings them into this room and he turns into a vampire, which I also think is amazing.
It's cool because with this show, you can't tell if somebody's a vampire until they turn. So they look completely normal, quote unquote. And then when they turn, then their teeth come out and their face changes a bit. The makeup is different than in the movie. They look different. They have more of a facial latex piece over their eyes and forehead than in the movie version. But so they definitely look different, but yeah, I appreciate it. So some of the ways that they kill vampires in the TV show and the movie that we have seen so far, the big one is just wooden stakes. What else do you remember?
I remember that in the praying mantis one, they had to, like, cut them to pieces. Also, another thing is how the vampires die, on how in the movie they just die, and then in the show they just evaporate and disintegrate to dust, which I find cool because then no one knows what happened. And then, but like in the movie, how after the big battle, the principal's just going around to all the dead vampires, going detention, and detention for you. Which
It was hilarious because the principal's literally giving detention slips to all of the dead vampires, which is ironic. There was something else. There was a funny scene at the end of the movie. Do you remember?
I can't.
It was something on the TV.
Oh yeah, I remember. What happened was, I think, like, they were interviewing them, and like after the battle, and then they said, like, oh, their eyes were glowing, and like their skin looked weird. I think they were young Republicans.
Yes. They had a certain look in their eye. I think they were young Republicans. Yeah, that was a funny little joke at the end. And then, again, there's another little secret scene of Paul Reubens still going through his death. In the Buffy TV show, I know they use some holy water. Angel gives her a silver cross. So there's all sorts of things that happen. I want to mention a couple of my favorite Buffy episodes coming up in future seasons. Once More with Feeling is the musical episode of Buffy, and I love it. It features the cast, and this is the point in the series when Dawn is there, and I'm not going to say who Dawn is because I don't want to spoil it for Campbell or anybody who's listening, but also Spike is a reoccurring character by that point. He is my favorite of all time. I ship Buffy and Spike, but I did ship Buffy and Angel in the beginning, and I think you will too. There's the other episode that I really love is from season 4, and it's called Hush, and everyone loses their voices, and it's basically like a silent episode. It's so good. It's great. I think the writing is so good, and it only gets better. Like a lot of TV series, they sort of get into their groove, and it only improves. So I'm so excited to be rewatching this, and I'm so excited that Campbell is excited about it. So we need to rank both the movie and the TV series up to this point that you've watched so far on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being you hated it, 10 being it's perfect. And we have to figure out a scale. So, like, vampire stakes, or what's something else that's in both the movie and the TV show?
Let me think. So, vampire stakes.
Okay, so out of 0 to 10 wooden vampire stakes, how many do you give the movie?
I would give the movie about 4 or 5. So it's okay, but it's not good.
That's pretty fair. I would give it probably a 6. I'm giving it a little more, I think, than maybe it deserves. But it's because it's setting up this character, and I love that she's this strong female, and, you know, maybe I'm looking too much in towards the TV show. Maybe I should give it a 5. I'm giving it a 5. Now, 0 to 10 wooden vampire stakes. How many do you give the TV show so far?
I'd have to give it about 8 or 9, I'd say, so far.
And so why do you like it better?
I don't know. It's just, I think Buffy as a character is better, that she's not a mean girl anymore, that she's actually, like, nice to people. And I like Giles. He's one of my favorite characters so far. And I like the plot of the show more than the movie.
I agree, and I am going to give the TV show a 10. Of course, I've seen the whole series, and I love, love, love it. I think it is great. I know that a lot of people don't necessarily like Joss Whedon, and maybe there are some problematic things, and I have read some essays on the feminism of Buffy, but just let me enjoy this one thing. No, I love it. I think it's these solid characters, great dialogue, awesome fight scenes, interesting plots. It is one of my favorite shows of all time.
Yeah, mine too.
That's awesome. So we are going to continue to watch Buffy, and we might have some episodes of specific episodes coming up. Campbell, is there anything that you have seen or watched lately or played in horror game wise that you want to recommend to listeners?
One game I would recommend is, you might have heard of it, Granny. It's a mobile horror game where you're going around your granny's house, trying to escape because I don't know. I think she's kidnapped. I'm not sure about the plot. I think she kidnapped you, and then you have to go around getting something about like getting keys to unlock the door or something like that. I don't know.
It is really creepy. It's got a lot of jump scares, and she's freaky looking. It kind of reminds me of the end scene towards the end of The Visit, where those kids go to visit their grandparents. The granny kind of reminds me of that. It's creepy, and there's like is it Grandpa or something now too?
Yeah, and then there's like this spin-off game by like some different company called Grandpa, which is like the same thing except it's like Grandpa or something. I don't know.
These games with these kids these days. So there's so much. Yes, there's all sorts of fun things. So we hope that you are having a wonderful week. And if you are looking for something to binge watch, I highly recommend Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Until next time, we'll see you in the horror section.
See you in the horror section. Bye.